Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's Furman Football Weekly with head coach Clay Hendricks. Paladins getting set for the final home game of the 2025 season on Saturday against VMI. A 1 o'clock kick. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a bit. And joining Coach at the table today is Senator Chris Luna. As always, we'll get Coach Hendricks to open us up with a statement, and then Tom Van Hoy will ask question number 1 today.
Okay, thank you, Dan. First I'll just like to say Happy Veterans Day. All those out there who served and sacrificed, so we have a great country to live in. I know I'm forever grateful for the 10 years I spent at the Air Force Academy. Never, not much military at all in my background anywhere, family, and haven't had the chance to be around that for that number of years makes me really appreciate it that much more. But again, just wanted to say that. The other thing, Caldwell Busty, certainly scary few minutes, more than a few minutes on the field on Saturday. Really, I think it actually happened the first play of defense, I think in the second half. And doing great. He's back around here. He's been able to get out and watch practice. Should be able to make a full recovery, and so we're forever thankful for that. And I told our team the other day, Mike Brown, our trainer, and his staff, how they handled that situation. I thought it was just pretty incredible sitting there. That was, I guess I could see it firsthand. And, I was there with Mike when Bryce, when all that started that day, and how he handled that. And I told our team, if that was me, that's exactly how I would like for it to be done. If that was my kid, or obviously one of our players. So again, just want to thank him for that. Thank you, Rich. Say the same thing about Chattanooga, Rusty Wright, and their people. They were phenomenal. Trying to assist in any way they could, even well into Saturday night in Chattanooga. They were going to do what they could do to help us. So for that, I'm really appreciative. You get to the game, just to say I'm disappointed in how we played would be an understatement. I just felt like, first of all, let me say this: give them a bunch of credit. Had a new quarterback, kid played really well, so you got to give them executed at a high level. And I told Coach Vaughn and I are part of both in agreement. Maybe 9 years out, that's the worst we've played defensively in a football game since I've been here. The first drive, they kept it for 19 plays and they had it for 9 minutes, and we got to stop, which was great. So credit our guys for that. But just that drive alone, I don't know, 3 or 4 times should have been off the field. Just third down continues to hurt us, whether it's missed tackles, and so much of it's just fundamental stuff. I think, and I told our team, I obviously wasn't very happy after the game, and I don't know, I told them, we had a long bus ride home, and had some time before we met on Sunday afternoon to kind of think it through, and I told them when we had our team meeting here on Sunday, I said, after thinking about it, sometimes you think about what you said, and I felt the same way. I just felt like we were out physical, which we don't think can ever happen. Certainly out executed in lots of ways, but again, just really disappointed in that. Probably disappointed in me. I just hadn't been able to get us. I really felt like in every game this year, there were times we played really well in every game. I didn't think we played all well in defense at any time during the game Saturday. But on offense, we showed some sparks, and then we couldn't get the ball. I think we've had the ball now 21 minutes each of the last 2 games. Then we also had some opportunities when we did get it. We couldn't get field position. And even when people move the ball on you, they can flip the field. I think after 2 of the punts, we started inside the 10. Credit our special teams, particularly our kickoff return, doing a great job. Got us some field position. But the thing defensively continues to haunt us is just explosives. Giving up explosive plays, and golly, the 1 for the half, minute 27, we take the lead, and even then, we ought to tackle them on the 40-yard line. That doesn't mean they won't go down there and score, but we certainly have our opportunities to do that. And then offensively, the turnovers. not real hard to see in the first 5 games. I think we committed 6, got 8. So you're plus a little bit there. In the last 5 games, and I think of those 6, we committed 3 were in one game, but you guess which game that was, you know, and in the last 5 games, we've committed 12, we've got 2. So I mean, that's a recipe to get beat, you know, and I think of those 12, I think of 14 of the 18 were in 4 games, you know, and so you can't win football games doing that. You know, so we gotta, you know, we get in games, we gotta handle adversity better. There's gonna be adversity in every football game you play, and, you know, you can sit there and say, yeah, we're younger here and there, but we played 10 football games now this season, and, you know, you watch us this year and watch us a year ago, I mean, it's not even close how much better we are, but we're just getting over that, finding our edge back and getting over the hump is what we're trying to get to right now. So, you know, we'll be out there today. You know, I thought we prepared well last week. I think Coach Spangler said it, our group, you need to prepare all you want. You got regular preparation. You got 3 hours on Saturday. You got to be able to go produce and play well. That's just what we haven't done consistently. So, but with that, what any questions you have?
Coach, you mentioned backup quarterback Chattanooga last week, and you know anything about that going in? Did you have to prepare for 2, and how difficult is that if they maybe start somebody you're not prepared?
Nah, we found out right before. You look a little bit, hadn't played very much. You know, he had a pretty good high school career. You look at his numbers and all those kinds of things. I don't think they changed a whole lot. You know, I didn't, you know, their starter had run quite a bit, so you know, it's not like we're not ready for a guy that's going to run some. And the you know, the disappointing thing is a lot of them were called runs. You know, you know, we just rush past the passer. You know, we take a bad angle and we just create a cavity for him to take off. You know, credit him is taking off. You know, it wasn't like it was anything great design. You know, it's just a kid playing ball, and he did. You know, I mean, those were all huge plays in the game. I think 3 different times we had them, you know, back first maybe 25 or over 20 yards, and let them maybe out there 3 different times. You know, let them complete 4th and 7, and get a screen pass on us to the tight end. It was a good call, good execution by them. Now, I don't really think that had anything to do with it. He played well. He took care of the ball, you know, and like I said, we were -3. So -3 is hard to beat anybody.
Coach mentioned about the long drive to start the game. By that means they had it 12 minutes the first quarter, and somehow they had even more in the 4th quarter. But and having said all that, I thought the key to the game was, you know, they scored 46 seconds left in the first half, and they get to pick 6 2 minutes in the second half. It just seemed like boom, boom to start the end of the first half and start the second half like that. It came never recover.
Well, you say the middle 8, you know, we talk about the middle 8 a lot, you know, and really, you know, actually, I think if you look at it, it was 14-7 with 4 minutes to go in the half. They hit the one, we came down, scored, and then again, they get it back. I think they got it back with a minute 27. And then they hit the pass, you know, they throw, you know, one of them threw overhead, and one of them later, and then one just missed a tackle, you know, and really had 3 guys with a chance to tackle him. And then we get it again. You know, we think about we get it down there for the half, and you know, just we didn't have timeouts. You know, I think we had 9 seconds on the last play. We called a little slant. Their kid made a good play. You know, we figured nothing else. We're gonna kick the field goal, and you know, we kicked the field goal, and somebody lets a guy come right in his gap, one hand. You know, guy got one hand on him. So you know, that was a big play. Then we again know we're getting the ball to start the second half, and what we do, we hit a big play first play. I think it's 3rd and 3. Yeah, well, you know, defense tackle picks it off. It goes 50 yards again. You know, and then you can sit there and look at it. If we complete it, it's probably a huge play for us, but we did. So, yeah, and I don't know. It just seems like we let that happen to us too much. You know, for whatever. I wish wish I had all the answers for why it's happened as much to us the last year and a half. You know, and we're gonna continue to try to get better at it.
I guess it seemed like on that back and forth second quarter, but then after that, it just seemed like.
Yeah, well, you go down 10, well then,
Right.
well, if you think, we went right down and scored, I think. We hit the long pass, you know, back to 3, and then I think we gave up a drive.
Yeah, in the third one.
Then we gave up a drive, so again, it's just kind of responding there, you know, and really a similar situation we were in the week 4 Mercer, you know, a 3-point game. I don't know, not that later in the third, but in the third, and couldn't get stops. You know, it was kind of the same thing, and then you know, even I think even when they went up the 10 with, I don't know, 6-7 minutes to go, you know, we hit Josh on the first big pass and fumbled the football. You know, and then we get back, and then we go down and we hit, you know, we go try to catch the ball with one hand, and we just tip it to them. That should have been a big play. So again, we're a team, when we get those opportunities, we got to make them. But you know, we don't do this a lot. We watch the entire game together as a staff, both sides of the ball. And you know, just too many times, you know, as a guy's going through, well, this guy's supposed to be doing this, and this guy's supposed to be doing this. Well, we're not doing that, you know, and it's happening too often. You know, so again, you better look at us. You know, just gotta, you know, you want to play a little more confidence, and sometimes you don't like we're playing with much confidence. Times we do. You know, again, we're just trying to come have a great week of practice, which again, well, I think we practice pretty well all year. We just, but you got to be able to do it on Saturday when it counts.
Chris, just talk about, you know, I think in the first quarter last week and really parts of the first half, you know, in the Chattanooga game, I thought the running game looked pretty good in spots. With a guy like CJ Nettles being there a lot, he really does a nice job of kind of waiting on his blocks. Can you just talk about blocking in front of him and just what that's been like this year?
Oh yeah, no, CJ is a heck of a ball player. You know, he definitely is patient, tries to find the holes, and you know, tries to find ways to like get extra yards and fight through. So I really like blocking for him. Truly up front, like we try to like really hone in on like just trying to take the right steps and like just being together. It's like trying to stay in the combo blocks. So obviously, like I think progressively throughout the year we got better at that. I think the run game is starting to show up a little bit. Like you said in the first half, we really like was honing in on it, and we like really focused on it and really tried to push hard. So honestly, I think having a guy like CJ back there, you know, makes us look good at times, and you know, us making him look good. So it's like complimentary football. So honestly, that's been going throughout the year, and I look forward to blocking for him for years to come.
Coach, had a couple things. First, I just want to go back to Caldwell Bussey, because the replay, we couldn't see what happened. Did he just take a knee to the helmet, or his head hit the turf, or where, just with all the collision of bodies there?
You know, it really looked more like almost a hit to the side of the head. You know, just a pretty good little whiplash kind of deal. It was kind of right there in the pile, and again, it wasn't you didn't see just some crazy blow, but you could see where his head kind of snapped to the side. And again, you know, what was interesting, you know, we'd had the ball, you know, and then they scored on the pick, and we kicked off, and it's funny, I was actually down with the offense, I didn't even see the first play, which rarely happens. And so when I turned and looked, you know, he was down at that time, and, you know, which obviously happens a lot in football. But, you know, really but I think it was the first play of defense. You know, just to think you can't think of, you know, some recent happenings here, you know, I'm sure that effect, I thought about it, you know, and, you know, but our guys, I thought handled it as well as you can handle it. You know, we felt really good even as he left, just with what we'd seen and kind of the reaction stuff, but you still never know. But nah, I mean, that was kind of what we saw.
All your time here, going back to player, back in the early '80s, assistant coach, long time, and head coach for almost a decade. I know you've never gone into a season like, we want to win 5 games this year, or maybe 6. Never happy with that because the standard of excellence here is so high. But looking at this year and comparing it to last year, you know, I know there are a lot of positives that come out this year over last year. I mean, you got a chance to double your win total from a year ago, double your Southern Conference wins from a year ago. Just on the whole, just if you could just cover some of the things, some of the progress you've seen this year, and maybe what you've seen, some of the areas that you know, look for some continued improvement in the future.
Well, you know, it's a good question, Hunter. I think what happens, you know, usually every week you watch the game from the year before. So we obviously spent some time watching Chattanooga from a year ago, because now it changed a little bit, changed the staff, but it's the same defense, all those things. So you go back and watch last year's tape. I'm doing the same thing this week, and really, gosh, it's probably been that way most weeks, because I don't think there's been a game where we just said we're not watching that tape, that staff's gone. They're different, you know. So you kind of see that you know, it's night and day. You know, it's night and day just as far as the execution things we're able to do. And like I said, I think there's times we look like a really good football team. It's just the inconsistency's been the most disappointing thing. You know, and again, just maybe reacting to some of the adversity. And again, I don't think it's anybody giving up. It's just, you know, just our, you know, leadership needs to speak up, you know, and I think that's something we need to continue to build upon. I do think defensively, when we look at how many young guys we got playing over there, you know, I think Raleigh Herbert, he's one of our captains as a sophomore. You know, I see a guy like him really trying to be a vocal leader over there. But no, I'm like you. I mean, you try to. I always at the end of the year judge it. Did you get the most out of your team? Who you had? You know, last year was kind of hard to judge because we were. I mean, except we weren't very good. We weren't good at anything. You know, I think red zone defense was pretty good. Maybe punt coverage was pretty good. But you know, we just kind of. I think we made great progress in lots of areas. You know, I think for me, and I've told our team this, you know, we are where we are, and we are what our record says, and we are what we put on video. You know, for me, it's finishing this year strong for these old guys and sending them out the right way. And it's for these young guys building. Then we got a chance to have a pretty special group. Now, got to keep guys together. You know, got to stay together. I think our guys have to stay together. You know, and as we're heading into some, you know, crazy times in our profession, our sport. So that's kind of what the focus is. And I feel like if we get all these guys back, we got a chance. We don't, you know, we certainly lose some good players, but you feel like you're in a position to continue to build. And it's like, heck, you've been here, Hunter. It kind of reminds me a little bit of early '90s. You know, I even feel a little bit like COVID. You know, I remember getting dealt that hand in COVID. You know, when you felt like you're going to have the best team in the league, and all of a sudden you lose your starting quarterback, and you play the spring season, you play the fall season, and then all of a sudden 22 here it came. And so there've been a few years. Even one of my times at the academy, I kind of felt that way. You know, can we continue to get better, do those things? And you know, I think a lot of the issues, you know, you know, offensively really is the turnover and continue to get better at the run game. And I think there's lots of things that kind of tie into that, which again we got to address as we go forward, and then continue to do things defensively around here. We've been really good defensively, and you know, we just got to get our guys playing better.
Coach, VMI is not a team that actually looks like what their record is, 1-9. I've actually had a chance to see them up close. What's your thoughts going into this game? Because this team could actually be a 5-win team and not a 1-win team that you're going to be going up against. They just, like with some of the teams here, the last minutes, they just, you know, they lose the lead, and then, you know, the record is what it is.
I think it's like I said up here, kind of here. I think every week it's its own deal. You know, I think their game with Chattanooga was 21-14 at home. The Wofford game was 10-7 at the half. Got away from the second half. You know, the Mercer game, Mercer just jumped on. You know, each game's a little different. I think the matchups are a little different. How you attack people. yeah, I mean, East Tennessee kind of jumped on, you know, so like I said, I just think our focus is on us. You know, they're a little different. They're a little different defensively. They're a unique group to have to prepare for because of the looks they give you. So it makes the preparation a little more challenging. Offensively played not much different than some stuff we've seen, you know, from some other offenses, but it's the makeup of who those kids are. You know, they live a disciplined existence up there at school, and so that certainly helps them. You know, they seem to have stayed a little healthier this year. And, you know, you kind of look at people throughout the year, and they seem to have kind of stayed a little healthier. I think everybody's got things, and everybody's missing a couple of guys here and there, but no. So I fully expect we'll have to play really well to go get a win, which is what we plan on doing. And again, the focus has just been, you know, us taking care of us. And, you know, we've talked about that all year. Just we haven't been able to quite do it. You know, I don't think for maybe a 4-quarter game this year, maybe close. In 1 or 2 games we were close to doing it for 4 quarters. That's where our goal is.
Chris, I want to go back to Caldwell Bussey for a moment, because this is your teammate, your brother. He's laying there, and it's a long, extended time while they're doing what they have to do to make sure he's okay. And then you have to get ready and go back mentally and play a football game again. How do you do that? How with everything that's going on, how are you able to turn the page and get back and try to recapture the intensity and everything that goes into playing a football game?
Man, Bus is a strong guy, you know, a strong teammate. I really look after him, on what he does. He's really sets a good example at times, and you know, just I think about it as he would want us to finish for him. You know, he would want us to go out there and play our hearts out for him. Same thing he would do for us when one of us went down. So just trying to flip that switch, and you know, once he went down, I hit a quick prayer. You know, let God know that, you know, I'm thinking about him and that I want him to be with him. And then, you know, let's go finish this game out for him. You know, obviously we couldn't do that, unfortunately, but that's just the mindset going into when a teammate goes down. You just want to finish for him. So.
Chris, Coach has mentioned your transition to Furman a couple times. He said center was a new position for you here, and after playing high school ball, you played both offensive and defensive line. How has that transition gone? And also, just for the average fan, if you'll just tell us all what you're calling out every play, raising your hand. You're the chairman of the board at line of scrimmage. Just walk us through that.
So basically, what I do is when I lift my hand up is I'm basically IDing the mic. So it tells us, all 5 of us, where we're going to, where we're working to, what the backside is doing, even the tight end, what the tight end is doing, where he's going. So it's a complicated job, but I honestly embraced it. My coach, Coach Kutch, has done a great job preparing me for it each and every week. I didn't play center in high school, so coming in, it was a little culture shock, kind of, would you say? But honestly, just working hard with even Coach Hendricks, who's taught me a lot of techniques and just the game and all that. So I've had a great supporting staff around me, trying to get me ready for you know, this job I have. So I'm obviously you know, grateful, and I like leading the offense. So I actually really enjoy it. So that's cool.
Coach, if you look at the stats and you look at the game, you wonder, well, did Furman run the ball more? But it was probably a situation where you would have liked to, you just didn't have the ball that much. Is that kind of the case?
Yeah, I think so. You know, it's one of those. You know, we've had our moments offensively this year. I don't know, Saturday one of those days you really felt like, okay, we're doing some good things the way we. Even after the 19-play drive, you know, I don't know how many plays he took us. We covered the field. We, I guess, had a great drive, score touchdown. Yeah, we didn't have the ball. I mean, it's one of those games. You know, like I said, I coached those academy games and service academy games. And, you know, man, you can stand over there and stand over and stand over. You can't get people off the field. You know, and the frustrating thing, you know, those guys, and I lived in that world. When you live in that world, there's so many third and shorts or fourth and shorts. That wasn't what it was. There were some of those. You know, letting the back, you know, running the back of a guy and come bouncing out of the pile for 15. And, you know, almost, I guess disheartening, you know, it takes its toll on you, just a little bit mentally. But no, that was the plan. We felt good about it, and then, you know, even the second half, you know, we were kind of on the worst ending, because we had, I think we had 6 possessions in the second half, touchdown. I think we did have 2 3-and-outs. Got stopped on third short, and we had 3 turnovers on 3 drives that were going really well, you know, and so we were, you know, they kept it first half, second half, they kept it, plus we gave away possessions. So now I've said all along, I like a lot of things we're doing up front. I think our backs are doing some good things, you know, because of, you know, Trey's skill set, you know, our run game is a certain, you know, we have certain things that we're going to do. And I think we've been getting better there. We've certainly shown the ability to throw the football and get, you know, chunk plays as we got a little healthier there receiver. But again, it's complemented. It's getting us in better field position. It's getting more stops. And, you know, having a chance even, you know, it just seems like everybody flips the field on us. You know, we need to get a few more stops when they're backed up. You know, kind of like we started the Mercer game. It was nice to get the ball at 40 going in. That was after a punt. You know, so those are things we have to be able to do.
You know, you faced, I guess, a couple of really good freshman quarterbacks the past couple of weeks. Normally, you think, well, on third down, you can probably get off the field, but that's 18 of 33, I think, in the past 2 games against 2.
I think it's 18 and 32. I looked it up. You may be right. Yeah, I looked at that a few times. Those are like triple option numbers.
And also I wanted to ask about the play before the half where the block field goal seemed to kind of really change the momentum of the game. And then on the first drive, the interception.
Well, the third down, you know, I mean, it is what it is. You look at it on tape, and it's containing a quarterback. You know, it's kind of like this. If you're not able to get to him, you should be able to contain him. You know, and the kid, he tells a decent athlete. You know, but he's not a mega dynamic runner, you know, which you have to deal with some of that. You know, you deal with the Western guy, it's a totally different, you know, as far as what he does. Mercer guy was on run, you know, he didn't run. So I think each case is in itself. You know, but again, a lot of give them credit for blocking us their times, but just, you know, we just gotta do things we've been coached to do. Play with more physicality, be where we're supposed to be. Communication's part of it, you know. Too many easy access throws, you know, and then certainly we'll have some explosive plays, you know, as well. And what was your other? We were talking third down. For the kid. Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you block a kick, I mean, we've done that before. Yeah, I mean, we're sitting there thinking we're going to get a touchdown, you know, and I mean, I think we got the ball back with 37 seconds. We practiced that, you know, and we had a great little 2-minute drive. You know, Evan couldn't get out of bounds on the ones that left us with 1 timeout. You know, so in that case, you had to throw it. And again, they rushed a guy just in an inside gap. One guy should just block him and let him get through enough to stick one hand up there. You know, you probably kick up all 100 times and knock his hand on it. We got his hand on that one. And then you come out second half, you get a big play, and then 3 plays later, you throw a pick 6 to a defensive tackle. So again, I think it goes back to that, you know, how the half ended. You know, they hit a big play, we respond, they make another big play on a block kick. Half, we come out, 4 plays, another one, and you know, that's a, you know what, and then, it was 2 plays later, call was on the ground, you know, and so, but you know, that's football, that's life, you gotta be able to respond, you know, and so you gotta go make a play to change the narrative. You know, we gotta be able to make some of those plays, you know, getting off the field on third down, do the thing we need to do.
Chris, I just wondered, your 3rd year in the program, how different are you now versus when you came in?
Oh man, when I came in, I was extremely immature. You know, in college for the first time, away from home, away from my mom, so just looking for a good time. But over the course of time, I realized how important this is and how this program is like, you know, top tier. So I have to really, you know, lock in and, you know, buy in. You know, one of the things we talk about, like in the weight room and and the off season is buying in, and that's something I really had to realize that I had to do in order to succeed here. So that's probably the biggest difference since I came in as a freshman. I'm much more mature now, and much smarter now, and kind of taking this leadership role a little bit, trying to work on it still, but that's basically the biggest difference this time.
Coach, before we wrap it up, when you lead a program like this, you're looked to as the leader, and we're watching what's going on with Caldwell, that whole situation. And one of the things I never do about injuries is speculate, but I still have an obligation to describe what's going on for people who are listening to the broadcast. And I noticed one of the things we talked about was Caldwell's dad coming over to you. And that's indicative of your job, good or bad. You're the leader, and people are coming to you. How long did it take you to embrace that aspect of the job? Because you have been through some stuff here.
Yeah, I did. That's a good question, man. Somebody, maybe it was my wife. I think about, this is year 9 for me, when I became head coach at Furman. I think about the things that have gone on in the 9 years in college football, at Furman, within our program, COVID, in those 9 years. I don't think in the other 31 years that I've been coaching, if you had something happen in college football that changed the signing day, or they put in a recruiting test and now you had to take, but just to think the number of things, everything from enrolling in Furman to certainly Bryce, and obviously that one kind of forever changes you. And to think you didn't think about that, and Cole and Bryce were best friends, and I appreciate Rusty Wright walked out there. Rusty and I, we're pretty friends. But yeah, I don't know. You just try to. Each moment's a little different. You just try to. You try to yourself be a dad at that time. Because I can a lot of ways I feel like I am. That with our guys, because I have one not much older than Caldwell. I think that's probably the biggest thing. It's funny the thing about me. George Quarles used to say this to me. George was here, and he had a great run as a head coach in Maryville High School. And you have those days as the head coach when he would walk up and say, "Coach, the days are the days I'm glad you're the head coach," just because of the stuff that's going on, that you have to deal with. And sometimes you don't want to deal with it, but you got to deal with it. You have to address it. Sometimes you have to address things you don't really want to have to address. But that just comes with it. Comes with the territory. So I don't know. Like I said, I felt like I was pretty well prepared for that. I've certainly learned a lot. Like I said, every game's different. Every situation is a little different. I think the best advice I ever got was just, when things aren't going good, stick to your principles, stay the course. Whatever it is you do, decision you're making, and just try to continue to get better at something a little bit each day. And I think that's what we're still trying to do. We're trying to get a little better at something each day. And I like a lot of the progress we're making. Like the players we have, we're going to address them. We're always going to try to get better players and make ourselves better. But we just gotta stick to it. Our place is a little unique. We have a few more challenges than some people have. And I think we're managing it as best we can. And, we're close. We're close. Again, we got to handle some moments better than we're handling.
Let that stand as your final thought today, unless you have anything else.
Well, the only thing I would like to say, we got Senior Day Saturday, and Senior Day is one of those things that's different too. You went through Senior Day through COVIDs and extra years, and we got a bunch of guys that walk out there Saturday, and kind of the way I am now, I know because I see the list. I'll tell any of those guys, we got some 4th year guys walking, we got some grad guys walking. We got some guys that already said, "Oh, Coach, I want to come back, but I'm going to graduate in spring, get in grad school." So it's kind of a mixture of guys that will be out there. But it's a great way to honor them, and they get to stand out there with their families, and we do that very much. We'll introduce them and their parents. And, I think we said, hey, whoever else you wanna bring out there with you, bring them out there. Just been an incredible group, you know, that's the great thing for Furman, just the quality of young man you get to coach. And, I think Furman does a phenomenal job of preparing for guys for life after this place. And you certainly hope Furman football has a big say in that too. And you know, I think I still try to keep in mind, you know, through seasons don't go as well as I tell them, you know, the wins and losses, they all go away. You know, 10 years from now, everybody was a great player, you know, but really, what are you doing to go be a better, you know, dad, husband, community leader? And I think we're doing a phenomenal job of that. I take great pride in that, and our guys. And yeah, we want to win. We want to win a bunch of football games. And we want our share. And we're going to do everything we can to go out there Saturday and just send them out the right way. But and then the last thing I'd just like to say, man, credit those parents, because I'll say that if you've got a young man that came to school here, just the fact that he could come here, man, he's had something on the ball. And I've learned in my time that usually comes from somewhere. It doesn't, you know, occasionally you get this guy and think, how did he get here? Because I don't see it in his background where he's got somebody that's truly been encouraging. But, you know, credit those parents. We got a phenomenal group of parents. I mean, we got a couple of brothers. Hunter and I were talking about this. I don't know if I've ever, I recruited the Twitties, but I wasn't here when they graduated, you know, but the two Burrell brothers, and, you know, Chris will tell you, those two guys, they're folks, and what, you talk about race, what two great young men those guys are. We didn't have very long, you know, in our program. Josh is gonna have his master's here in next month, but, and heck, they're all that way. They're a little different. They're gonna do great things. I take a lot of pride in that. So it'd be great to go honor them and doing the right way out there Saturday.
Well, on Saturday, it is a 1 o'clock kick for senior day here against VMI. ESPN Plus is your spot for the telecast, and from a radio standpoint, we'll be on the air with the pregame Pepsi countdown to kickoff at 11:30. Thank you to Coach Clay Hendricks, to Chris Luna for joining us, and thank you for watching. For all of us at Furman, I'm Dan Scott. God bless you. So long, everybody.